270. That's a good little clip. I'm gonna try to get all you guys on that are calling, so you guys just hang tight. All right, Ramon, what's happening?
Good evening, Anthony Brian Logan.
Evening.
What's going on, man?
Everything's good, man. Can't complain.
Ready for some March Madness, man?
I ain't even really been following it. I'll probably watch a few games here and there.
Yeah, I'm ready for it. I'm done with February. It's been the worst month.
Uh,
Maybe you should call, Mr. Al Sharpton and Mr. Jesse Jackson and tell them to protest why they gave you guys the worst month of the year. Because, I mean, I don't even want to go into how bad it was, but um, I am like a huge fan of college basketball, and there's like a new scandal now with payments that they've been discovering.
hmm
I think it's connected to the last Rick Pitino scandal, and Oregon is implicated now. And I was kind of thinking about it because Oregon was like I'm more of a fan of college basketball than the NBA because let's face it, the NBA is basically like a publicity league until maybe April. Like the entire regular season is a joke. But I was wondering how Oregon suddenly became like a great college basketball program because when I remember growing up, they were garbage, and pretty much it makes sense that Nike or some other commercial interest would prop them up, and that goes along with an idea I have about college basketball, which I'm writing about, which I think it's really important because I don't want everything that ruined the NBA to ruin college basketball, but I think you have to change the face of college sports in order to make it really able to survive without these ridiculous scandals that I think are caused by the way the NCAA is run. But anyway, I want to get into some of the topics that are burning in the news. So the Florida shooting, I just saw an update from one of the where did I put it? One of the local news networks in it's not just the FBI, it's local law enforcement, and that's beyond everything that was talked about by some of the other callers about. There's just so much that could have had like a long debate yesterday with somebody who's for more gun control, but actually has some gun use experience, a former NRA member who kind of soured on the organization. And basically my argument against more gun control is that being as I know how much easier it is to manufacture components and put together your own assemblies, I don't believe that there will ever be a law that will be able to prevent the new manufacture of illegal guns. And he pretty much conceded that. He says that basically the law is an implication that we need the law in order to make it clear what's okay and what's not okay. But I think even like the people who do want gun control but do know what they're talking about, they know it's not going to solve the issue of illegal guns reaching the hands of criminals. So, I mean, that's all I have to say about that. I did want to tell you this really went unheralded the past week, but there was a revelation that the Department of Justice helped the ACLU and another organization in Wisconsin concoct this bizarre conspiracy to against school choice in Wisconsin by filing all of these fake complaints about discrimination against disabled students.
oh
Have you
wow,
heard about that?
I haven't heard about
Yes.
that at all. No.
I, I'll send you the story, and maybe you can, you know, talk about it sometime. But it's bizarre because that it's called this nonprofit group called Disability Rights Wisconsin. I've already made a video on it, but it wasn't that too long. And what I think is just ridiculous is that CNN and the mass corporative media that or that mainstream media, whatever people call it, they're all about the woman's right to choose. They're all about choosing your own gender and choosing even choosing your own race. They even had an op-ed about that with the Rachel Dolezal thing, but they don't want you to be able to choose your own school or to choose to own a firearm. And also and I made, no, this was the tenor of my video, that they want to define what choices are open to you. That's why when WikiLeaks was releasing all those emails during the 2016 election, they actually had, I think it was Chris Cuomo, say on air that only the media could read the emails because they were classified. And
So how was the media qualified to read classified government emails?
oh, don't ask, because you'll get a strike. You know, that's
Right.
exactly that's they don't believe in the rule of law unless it's laws that protect their corporate interests.
Right.
And you know, there's a lot of people who are joining the NRA now. Apparently, I'd be interested what's going to be the rise in membership, because I do believe there is going to be a rise, and not so many people leaving. I'm somebody, I don't really believe in joining pressure groups or organizations,
Right.
but you know, they're really doing their utmost to help the NRA in that. But with this school choice issue, it really is something. And I don't know, if I don't have any kids, I don't know if I would send my kids to charter school, but ultimately, when you put that money into your district and they return garbage, and my district isn't the worst, but you know, they do have their own share of garbage. It's just an insult to people's intelligence. It doesn't matter what race they are, to tell them, sorry, you have to send your kids to public schools because public schools are the foundation of a society of caring individuals and social justice, you know, lattes and whatever, which is basically their argument against school choice. But in fact, if you go to the majority of these municipalities, these large metro areas where people believe in school choice and have voted for school choice, it is black and other minority parents who want these schools there. And I'm not going to say charter schools shouldn't be, you know, kept accountable, but it's much easier to shut down a charter school that's failing than it is to shut down a public school that's failing. So there's a couple other stories I wanted to ask you if you were familiar with. First of all, the Democratic Memo. Did you hear about that coming out? I think it was this evening.
Oh, is it coming out finally?
It did come out.
Oh no, I didn't see that at all. Now, was it heavily redacted?
There were some very key redactions. I don't know how. There, for example, concerning some of the sourcing for Carter Page.
Okay.
I haven't read through the whole thing yet, but yeah, I mean, there's some redactions here. It's kind of, you know, it's kind of retarded.
Like, are the redactions done to where you can kind of tell who the person is or what the situation is that's been redacted, or is it kind of like you can't tell what's going on?
I couldn't tell you yet, and
Okay.
you know, I really liked your video on the Nunes memo, and I think it's gonna. First of all, this memo is not going to generate nearly as much because it doesn't actually. The only thing that's going to get more support for the investigation would be evidence.
Right.
Evidence and things besides, you know, some sort of telescope-eyed freak talking in front of the camera, which is what the Democrats have in Adam Schiff.
Right.
So that I think that once I read through the memo, I don't think that it's going to reveal anything that substantially strengthens the case of the pro-investigation people.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, it's possible that it could backfire on them. But you know, it's too soon to tell. But I'd say you should probably take a look at it. I'm looking at it on Zero Hedge, which it's a pretty good website. I don't know if you know about it.
Yeah, I do.
And then the last story is that California's public employee retirement system is near insolvency, and it needs a bailout soon. And this is from a former board member. And you know, it's very interesting. Very interesting. And you know, I have progressive friends who collaborate with me on my content and stuff like that, and you know, I respect their opinion, but you can't make universal health care out of nothing, especially when you're already way in the red, and your red attitudes aren't going to help that.
Right.
They just believe that, for anybody out there who does follow my channel, that maybe they've seen my video with rethinking the dollar. He's a channel on YouTube. I told him to get in touch with you, Anthony. He's kind of totally into financial stuff and currencies, and he's warning about a coming financial crash, irrespective of whatever administration's in power. This pension crisis is going to blow up and hurt all Americans, and it is because of this tax and spend attitude that's been popular with both parties, and especially, with Democrats on entitlements and Republicans on defense. So, I think that we have to start really having the conversation has to be about making the system profitable, running the country like a business. And I don't think that really one person, the president of the U.S., can solve that. It has to be an attitude change on the grassroots level, and it has to be done through free will. But this crisis, it's starting with California, but also with other really pension vulnerable states like Illinois and New York State, is going to be really a sort of financial Hiroshima, so far as I've heard.
Right.
So I don't know, maybe that's a lot to digest for you guys, but I really do. I mean, check out the video I already did with the guy rethinking the dollar. It was a good 45 minutes, but he drops a lot of bombs, money bombs. But there's a lot of things to think about that don't really go into partisan politics that people just ignore because everybody wants to look at these school shooting people.
Right.
All right. Anyway, have a great rest of your weekend, and I'll talk to you later.
Thank you for the call, man. Definitely appreciate you.
Good night.
All right. Shout out to my man Ramon for the call. Always appreciate it. And shout out to you guys in the chat for the super chats. I saw you had like the super chat train. I really appreciate that. We got something from Will Redding, who says something for the meter. Thank you for your donation.